there, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I am Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani and you. It is your show, and we have a topic today that we know will resonate with you. Everyone who hears it is going to have something to call in and share about. And Debbie, we are live in the studios at EWTN.
Very exciting to be with all of you on YouTube and Facebook. So yes, we are sitting about 2 feet apart from one another, not on Skype. We're in the same location at EWTN radio studios and television studios, and we're so excited. We're here for the 2019 radio conference, and Jerry, it's been a blast, and we just landed late last night. We had a crazy planes, trains, and automobiles day of a flight.
We did. Well, Debbie started in Phoenix, and I started out of the Palm Springs Airport, which is near where I live. We connected in Dallas. We had the same flight from Dallas to Birmingham, but we learned the minute we landed, that flight was canceled. And so Debbie, thank God she got in a little bit before I did. She scrambled and got a seat on another flight that went to Miami and then to Birmingham, and I got on that one, but we had no idea what happened to our bags. And it turned out our bags actually made it to Birmingham before we did. So. Yes. You know, God was really with us on that.
Right. Definitely. So we're so happy to be here with all of you. So today's topic we think is, and maybe we could actually relate our story yesterday on the flight on mistakes we've made. This is very interesting. Jerry put this on the calendar. So folks, we want you to weigh in on this by calling 833-288-3986. And here is the question we're asking. How have your mistakes benefited others? Now, think about that for a moment. So Jerry and I were talking about that. Like, for instance, I said to Jerry, I think a lot of people will weigh in on relationship mistakes, right? We went after that person that we just thought was the right person, and it didn't turn out to be the right person. And then now, because of that, we can talk to our children, our grandchildren. We can talk to friends and relatives and maybe share the wisdom about that, about maybe not rushing into relationships. So there's all sorts of things. So how have your mistakes benefited others? And you came up with some examples as well, Jerry.
Well, it could be business ventures. Maybe you went in solo on a business venture without really, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's and really looking into what might come or what the consequences might be. Maybe you went into that with a partner, and now you have that experience to be able to share with others who might be thinking of doing the same thing. Also, Debbie, in parenting. Parenting is a huge area, dear folks, where you learn on the fly, and then you have wisdom to pass on to your children. So maybe you didn't do it quite right at some point along the parenting life of your children, but now you can teach them to be better parents, avoid those hardships, if you will, and pass that wisdom on. So
we want to hear from you. So start calling in right now. You get to speak to both of us as we are sitting at the same studio together doing Take Two with Jerry and Debbie at 1-833-288-3986. That's the number to call. You can also text us, or you could text the letters EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Put your question in, your comment, and we'll happily read it. And then also you could email us take2@ewtn.com. Hey, speaking about emails, can I just say something real quickly about that?
Sure.
We're getting a lot of emails from the Take Two family, and we just want to say thank you so very much. You guys are awesome. Please forgive us. We've been traveling, and it's pledge drive season, and all sorts of things have been going on in our lives right now, and so we're a little bit behind. But we read everything, and sometimes we read emails 2 and 3 times. And it's actually, you send us such beautiful emails. So please be patient with us. If you think we lost one of your emails, we do have a filter on our email system that sometimes you get filtered out to spam, unfortunately. So that may have happened. You could always resend it. But just, if you can just be kind about it, because we feel bad that we can't. I think we're about 3 weeks behind, just to let you know.
That's not too bad.
That's not bad. Yeah.
All right, so as you're listening to our conversation today, remember, it's your show. We have no show if you don't call in and share your lived experiences, your insights, your wisdoms, your take at 833-288 888-3986. We're talking today about learning from our mistakes and how others can benefit by our mistakes. And Debbie, one of the big ones, I think, is leaving the church. If there's anyone, maybe you left the church for a period of time and you came back. Now maybe you're in a position to help others who are wavering in their faith, or you're able to help others who also left the church, and now you can help to gently bring them back. So that's another key area where your own mistake, as you see it now being a mistake, and you've come back to the church, you can help others.
That's a good one.
And also, I think a huge one, Debbie, is impurity of our youth, throwing our innocence away in high school, sexually or otherwise. And that can be a real huge area where we can learn from those mistakes, and our wisdom then benefits others.
The other one I was thinking of is when I shared this before on the show, that I was pretty much raised in a golfing family, and at early on, when I was about 4 years old, my dad noticed that I had some golfing ability and a talent, and a lot of people said, this is a God-given talent, and I didn't take it seriously. And that I sort of regret, but I help others, I think, now. When I see somebody having a God-given, I'm going to get chills when I think about this, because we met somebody in the plane. We met yesterday, Jerry, and when they have these talents, that they really should explore them. They really should put the effort behind it, because we're all unique, and God created us in giving us so many gifts and talents that we are made to use them for the glory of God. And so that's another one too. That's interesting. That one just hit home because of we met so many people in the airport yesterday, folks, because we were flying for like 12 hours. So it was pretty interesting, but it was all providential. We also met two people that had some really had some tragedies hit. This one young gal, Laura, she just recently lost her husband unexpectedly, and she was in shock, and we offered to pray with her. And then a gal that we sat with on the plane, her name is Shannon, and her mother Deb was just diagnosed with cancer, has spread to her brain. And so people are dealing with a lot of stuff, and they appreciated, I think, that we cared and we would pray.
Mm-hmm. It's such a blessing to be able to do that, and we thank you, Take Two Family, for your prayers for all of the intentions that we have and the encounters that we have as well. But now we need to encounter you on the radio. We are going to take your calls here shortly on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Think back in your life, a mistake, a bad path you went down, a bad decision you made. You recovered from it. You have come back to the right place, and now that benefits others through your wisdom, through your having maybe made a mistake. 833-288-3986. We need you to have a show, so give us a call.
The best way to pray is simply to open our minds and our hearts to God, to allow His presence to begin to fill us, to restore us, to refresh us, to make us new. The best way to pray is simply to be aware of that presence and to say yes to it, to give fiat to that presence as our Blessed Lady did. In that way, we delight in prayer, and God Himself delights in us.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Every single day, I get to help our listeners of the Sunrise Morning Show wake up, find out what's going on in the church and the world, and then walk with them as we all seek to grow in knowledge and love of Jesus Christ and the Catholic faith. I mean, how could it get any better?
The Sunrise Morning Show with Anna Mitchell and Matt Swaim. Tomorrow morning, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Unplanned, the true story of Abby Johnson.
I would be the youngest director in Planned Parenthood history.
She believed in a woman's right to choose.
I've had an abortion myself, so I don't have any problem with another woman making the same decision.
Until the day she saw something that changed everything.
Tiny, perfect little baby. And then it was just gone.
Now she's pulling back the curtain on the abortion industry. Unplanned.
Available at EWTNRC.com and the EWTN app.
Back back. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we're live at the EWTN studios here in Irondale, Alabama. We're so glad to be with you. Hi to everybody on YouTube and Facebook. We know your chats are going strong. Speaking about Facebook, please make sure that if you joined the Inspired by Faith book club on jerryanddebbie.com, Gigi is requesting that you move over to Facebook. We have Inspired by Faith Facebook page that we're doing the chats and the webinars there on Facebook. And Shauna set it up so beautifully. So please make sure you make that move over to Facebook. Also, about things we want to highlight real quickly, Jerry, the Sunrise Morning Show tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. So please, folks, check it out because you'll love it. You'll get hooked on it and you'll want it to listen to it each and every day, which we do as well. Okay, back to the topic. We are going to.
Yeah, today we are looking for your takes on how others now benefit from mistakes that you made in the past. Maybe you cheated in one form or another. And by the way, it's a little bit of outing ourselves. I understand that. It's something that you maybe think, oh, I don't want to share that on the radio. But, these are the things that we talk about on the Take Two show with Jerry and Debbie. And it really is, we're transparent, all of us. And you have been so transparent over the years, too. So we're not asking you to call up and say, what a horrible jerk I was or anything like that. But really just say, hey, I learned from such and such a mistake, and now I'm passing that on. I'm helping others benefit from the mistakes that I made. Debbie, I could spend the rest of the show, using personal examples.
Just share some if you can, because I think it'll help others to formulate what they want to share.
Well, one thing is, this is really ironic. We grew up in a very small town on the coast of Washington State, and there was one grocery store in town. And I used to go in, and for whatever reason, I developed the habit of stealing from the store. I would go down the candy bar aisle, and I would pocket a candy bar or some gum or something once in a while. Mm-hmm. And at one point, one of the workers came over to me, and they said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just looking, What are you supposed to do? I'm just looking.
Wait a minute, how old were you, though?
Well, I started working there when I was 12, so I had to be 10, 11 years old.
Okay, so you were little. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so I just said, no, I'm just looking right now. And then they said, well, why don't you empty out your pockets? And so I was busted. Big time, Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing was I learned from that, and I actually went on later to ask the owner of the store for a job. And at the age of 12, I started working at that grocery store. And I worked there until I was a little bit past my 18th birthday and got my first radio job.
So he hired you even though he knew you were a juvenile thief?
Well, I was a reformed juvenile thief.
That's pretty amazing, though. What a nice person he is.
Yeah, it was a great place for me to work growing up. The perfect place.
Yeah. So what made you, okay, I'm just curious. So how would this, when you said now your life experience, how it would benefit others? So what would you tell others? Like your nephews or, nieces? Yeah, well, I would just say some of the usual things like, is it really worth taking that risk? Obviously, if you're stealing a candy bar or something from a drugstore or something, nowadays, I don't know what they would do to you. Back then, it was just a little empty your pockets, get on your way, little swift kick and you were on your way. So I don't know what the punishment would be right now, but my counsel, hopefully how others would benefit from this is, it was so astonishingly embarrassing, because we lived in such a small town and everybody knew everybody. And I'm sure they probably told my mom about it. She was raising the 5 kids, and so, I would just pass that wisdom along and say, you know what? It's not worth stealing anything, even something as simple as a candy bar. But Charles will get a kick out of this. He's in the control booth because being from New Jersey, we have a little bit of a sarcastic nature. We can anyway. I would have said if you give me that advice, I say, hey, you got a job out of it. I did, yeah. Right? Yeah, well, see, that's how I benefited from that mistake. Yeah, there you go. But this is an interesting topic, folks. I know you only have a few minutes to think about it before you have to call in, so we really need to hear from you quickly at 833-288-3986. Ryan is on the phones. He's wonderful to talk to. We just saw him upstairs before we came into the studio, and he was so excited to take on this topic with you as calls come in. So please don't hesitate. If you feel prompted by the Spirit, now is the time to call in at 1-833-288-3986. And you'll get right in. Here come the calls. That's the way to do it. You've never disappointed us. So please don't disappoint us as we're sitting together in the studio at EWTN. We want the phone lines completely lit up. So 833-288 888-389-3986.
What about you, Miss Debbie? Are you able to share an experience?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I would say, would you consider this a mistake? I don't know. I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I think I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it made me kind of anxious during school because, like, I would write a whole. Can anybody relate to this? I'd write a whole paper. I didn't like how it looked, and I'd rip it up and start over. Now, most people would just kind of scratch things off or erase things and send it in. Not me. It had to be like perfect. I don't know if that's a mistake. That's not really, maybe it's a little bit off the topic here, but you know what I'm saying? I would not have, if looking back, I would say to people now, don't stress yourself out. Just do your best, but don't push yourself so much that it makes you, anxious and worried and stressed out, because school should also be, it's educational, but it also should be enjoyable, right? It wasn't enjoyable for me because I put so much pressure on myself. So I consider that a mistake because I could have had more fun.
Well, and Debbie also mentioned how you sort of left your golf behind and maybe didn't tap into a real gift that God has given you. And that was an example that Debbie gave that might resonate with many of you as well. We're talking today about how any past mistake in your life for which you have probably, you've atoned for that, you've amended your life. We're not talking about things you're still doing, but we can all look back and find in our lives these moments, these events, these things that maybe weren't the right choices. And we learn from them, and because we learn from them, we are now able to help others to benefit in their lives, maybe by not making the same mistake. And again, one of the key areas that you might be thinking about there, and maybe you've experienced this, is maybe you lost your innocence when you were a teenager, a young adult, and now as a parent, you're able to really have a much more, I think, impactful conversation with your children.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, we do learn because you don't get a manual when you get these wonderful children that arrive. You don't get a manual. They don't hand you something and say, "Okay, take this test and then go on and be a good parent."
Well, and you don't get a manual for being a teenager either.
True.
So,
That's very true. And so you learn and you grow and you learn from mistakes. Hopefully the mistakes aren't, scarring you too much where, they keep you stuck in a place of the past. That's the thing that I would love to get across to our listeners. Satan loves when we're stuck. Absolutely loves it. And will wreak havoc in our life. So we really need to transform a lot of these past regrets or mistakes or whatever you want to call them and make them something that could be productive for future use for us and for others. I really believe that, Jerry. And it's not a cop-out. It's not, because you don't have to send me any email saying, well, Debbie, you're not letting people take accountability. Of course people need to take accountability. But we also are called to grow and learn and evolve as Catholic Christians. Wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah, another thing just kind of popped into my head here. Maybe it is your marital relationship. Maybe you are struggling with that, you and your spouse, and maybe considering separating, considering divorcing, but you worked it out. Okay, maybe you made some mistakes, separated for a while, had some difficulties, maybe some fights in front of the kids, but you took the steps necessary to repair that, and now you're back in love again, so to speak. Just think of the benefit, Debbie, to others, to the kids and grandkids that is going to reap. So, all right, we're going to go to your calls, 833-288-3986. How have your past mistakes benefited other people?
And Gloria is up first in Bath, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Gloria. Thank you so much for calling in and welcome.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. Well, I was telling the person who screens the calls that 40-some years ago in the early 70s, after Roe v. Wade became legislation, I had an abortion, and I always had sort of a downness and sense of sorrow and stuff about me. And I went to confession numerous times for it, but God forgave me, but I didn't forgive myself. And it's interesting that no priest ever really suggested that I go to Rachel's Vineyard until until about, it wasn't a priest who suggested it, but 3 years ago I went after doing some pro-life activism, I guess you would say, connected with the Our Lady of Guadalupe image. I was doing that, and then I encountered some really negative people while I was doing some activism. And that night I went home really distressed, and I began to overeat. And I thought to myself, why am I overeating? And then it hit me. I still feel bad about that baby. So I called this abortion hotline, abortion reconciliation hotline, out of Chicago, and they recommended Rachel's Vineyard. But what I wanted to say is it was a horrible mistake I made, and it took 40 years of suffering until I was able to get the help I needed, and Rachel's Vineyard released that.
Well, Gloria, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that pain for 40 years and have to have all those feelings, and you know, beating yourself up over and over again, and like you said, overeating and stuff like that. You were, you know, obviously stuffing those emotions and stuff. I'm sorry that priest or the priest that you encountered didn't recommend Rachel's Vineyard or Project Rachel. I think these ministries that we have that are outreaches of the church are vital for all of us to grow and learn about ourselves and about what God wants for us. But here's the great news. Okay, Gloria, you've arrived. You're here now, okay? And you're in a good place spiritually. And yes, you had that abortion in the early 70s. And obviously emotionally, you've beat yourself up for many, many years. But you went through the healing process of understanding what you allowed to happen, right? But now I would say that God has put you in an awesome position to help others not make that same mistake. Because, Gloria, could you relate to this? You wouldn't want to see anybody else go through 40 years of pain like that. That's a lot to endure. That's a prison sentence. And it's a lot. And if people are truly remorseful and sorry and have gone to confession, absolutely. But we hear this time and time again, Jerry, you know, people will go to confession, but they still don't feel like they can forgive themselves. And so you do need to go through certain programs that the church offers that can really help. So I think, Gloria, I don't know if you've taken the steps, but maybe this phone call will be the initial step for you to continue on in the ministry of helping other young women and men who contribute to somebody else getting an abortion of what the pain they're going to carry with them. What do you think?
No, I think that's a good idea. And I had one thing to add. Sometimes I see women that are very down about themselves, and I wonder if they've had an abortion, and they're like my age, in their 60s, and I pray for them a lot.
That's good. That's really good to do that.
Yeah, and let's face it. There is nothing more beautiful, glorious, sublime, and intimate on the face of the earth than a mother giving birth, carrying and giving birth to a child. I mean, it is so beautiful. It is so almost transcendent. And so, even for a young lady who doesn't understand that, to terminate that pregnancy is I think, at least even if they don't know, all the realities of what they have done, it can't help but cause that being down, that depression, that anxiety, and so forth. But there is help available, Gloria, and you have pointed that out. And the thing is, you mentioned it was right after Roe versus Wade. You were young, Debbie. There are still to this day a lot of young ladies who are being lied to. Gloria, you were lied to, and it was a lie that was told to you as a truth. And you were told, this is going to make your life better. It's going to be, this, you can get rid of the inconvenience and all of that. But it really wasn't it was a lie, as you know.
And it's still happening today.
Yeah.
And you know what else too? That's a good point. You bring this up. And I don't want to name her as the Hollywood actress, but there's a Hollywood actress right now who's like out there really talking against the things that we believe as Christians. And it's interesting because they did a little research, and Gloria, it's funny that you're not funny, but ironic that you're saying this. They actually did some research, and I guess she admitted to having 2 abortions. And so you wonder if she's carrying this pain, and how is she manifesting that? How is she projecting that? Well, she's trying to get everybody else to kind of buy into that. And it's really unfortunate. I don't know if you know where I'm going with that, Gloria, but I don't want to mention her name because I don't like to give too much attention to Hollywood. But what do you think about all that? I agree that if people are really down, they may have something in their past they're holding on to. Real quickly, Gloria.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think people should pray for the Hollywood actors that are promoting abortion and not judge women who seem down. Like, some people want to just stay away from them, not go near them, but they're the people that need outreach, and then you could perhaps find out that they might need an abortion to heal from.
Gloria, just think of how many lives you have touched. You did make a mistake. God forgives you. The church forgives you. We forgive and love you. Now you've forgiven yourself. So now go benefit others. This is absolutely what we're talking about today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Al Kresta.
The secular press just doesn't get our story. They don't even understand it. And so it's incumbent upon us to get the story straight and get the story out.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Jumpstart your faith. Now coming to a parish conference or retreat near you, world-renowned Catholic radio host Jerry Usher.
It's not enough to stop doing whatever it is that's keeping you from union with God. For most of us, there are serious issues that need to be addressed first in order to be able to embrace that life of virtue. All those things we're all called to, but which every one of us struggles to achieve.
Invite Jerry Usher today. Contact thirdmillenniummedia.com.
The Reason for Our Hope with Father Larry Richards.
When I was in the Grand Canyon, I did an ecumenical ministry there, and I remember going out into the woods, and there was I used to always done a holy hour, but I couldn't do a holy hour in the Grand Canyon because there was no Eucharist. And so I'd go out and do my holy hour into the desert. I remember when I was talking to God, and I remember starting to cry, and I says, Lord, when I die and I stand before you, I just want to hear you say, well done, good and faithful servant. I don't care if the rest of the world thinks that Father Larry was great or not great. The only thing I want is for the God of the universe to say, you did what I wanted you to do. And that's why every day I try, weak as I am, to look at that end goal in mind. That what I live for is the day I take my last breath and I stand before God in judgment. I want to hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Tomorrow on More to Life, you can't talk to me like that.
We'll help you gracefully manage the disrespectful people in your life.
Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
How have your mistakes benefited others? That's what we're talking about today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And we heard from Gloria, who gave us her life story, which I think is very important for all of us to hear, and how she can benefit others now. And we want to hear from you. So there's plenty of time if you want to call in at 833-288-3986. And we're going to move next to Tiffany, and Tiffany is in Boston, Massachusetts, listening on the Station of the Cross. Tiffany's a first-time caller, so you get the virtual bell. Tiffany, welcome to Take Two.
Hi, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I'm a little bit nervous because I've never done this before, but I did feel that I needed to call, definitely. So my husband and I have 8 children, and our oldest is going to be 15 in a couple of weeks, and our youngest is 15 months. And so we have a lot and going on, and a few years ago, because I was always so... I felt very controlling, that I wanted to just control everything, their friends, what they were doing, how they were acting, what they did in school, all of that. And so a few years ago, I learned that through the Holy Spirit that I cannot control them. And there is only a certain amount that God wants us to do that in their lives, because they are actually His, just like we are His. And it took such a burden off of my shoulders, feeling like I had to do this for God when God has it all set and under control, and I needed to trust that. And I have felt so much better that, that I have experienced that, and I've learned that. And it was I felt like that out of all the mistakes I've ever made, that was the biggest lesson I've ever learned, is to just let God take over.
Well, Tiffany, God bless you, and I really mean that. You and your husband, you have kids from 15 years down to 15 months. That is just wonderful. God bless you for that. And I think what you're touching upon here, I know in my own life, Debbie, I won't speak for you, but it really is one of those things that we all find ourselves doing, or trying to do anyway. I know my mother was very controlling. I think I kind of got that from her. You want to sort of massage every situation so as, people don't get hurt, people don't make mistakes, everything goes right, and all of this. And like you said, Tiffany, we simply can't do that. It has to be, I've never had kids, but it has to be one of the hardest things to do, Tiffany and Debbie, as a parent, to say, Lord, really just to surrender your kids to God, and say, you know what, you just want to kind of micromanage everything. But then, as Tiffany has learned, and now it's going to benefit her kids, Debbie, you just have to really give it to God.
Well, yeah, but let's face it, Tiffany. I mean, let's be really frank here, okay? When we have kids, and you have a lot of them, okay? It's a big responsibility. You're worried about them. You want to make sure everything's okay. You want to make sure they're safe, they're happy, they're doing the right thing. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. And with that can come, I think, this need to control, because you want everything to go right. And I do agree that it's a great lesson in trust. And the sooner we all learn that lesson in trust, the Divine Mercy, Sister Faustina, Jesus, we trust in you. The sooner we learn that in all areas of our life, and especially with our children that aren't ours, they're God's, right? It does it's a huge sense of relief. Plus, then we don't beat ourselves up if something doesn't go our way. I mean, we've heard it, Jerry and I hear it all the time. There are beautiful Catholic families raising their kids, and 2 and 3 of their kids have left the faith. And so they're troubled by that, because they tried to do everything perfectly and everything right, and their children still walked away. What does that tell you? Everybody's got their free will. Everybody's on their own journey, and we really do have to trust. Anything else? Did we kind of capture that accurately, Tiffany?
No, absolutely. It's been very hard, and I wanted to micromanage and really control all of it, because I thought that's what God wanted us to do as parents, to make sure that every little teeny tiny thing is perfect, because that was being a good mother. And it actually was the opposite. Obviously you need to get good grades. I mean, my husband and I have certain standards for the children, just to make sure that they have a path in their life, but mainly guiding them to those paths is more what our job is as parents, not to control it and tell them, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's more and then on top of it, with God being our number one, it's number one in all of our lives, and in my husband's and mine, and now our children see that it's just automatic that God is there. It's nothing that you need to force on. It's just there. And that was the number one thing I feel like that I've never had to obviously force on them is our Lord. But it's just been so wonderful to know that it's a guidance, and it's more that than anything else for our children. And I hope that I am, doing the right thing.
Sounds like you are, Tiffany, you and your husband both, and you're all going to be in our prayers. And what a great blessing, that the benefit to these children now, who are still very young for the most part.
Oh, yeah, very young.
Tiffany, what you've shared and what you've experienced, what God has revealed to you and how you're now living that out in your lives, that is going to benefit your children in so many fantastic ways.
And your marital relationship.
Yes,
because when you're married, right, Tiffany, if you're stressed out, that's going to kind of flow over to your husband, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think this is a win-win all the way around. So here's what you got to do. You got to constantly make sure you remind yourself, Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in you. I say it probably 100 times a day. People must think I'm going off the rails here, but it's true. And we need to practice it, because I think Satan gets in the way, distracts us, and we go back into our own personalities, and that's how we can get off the mark. So that, I think it's awesome, Tiffany. You're helping a lot of souls today with your call, and I hope you're not nervous any longer, and you're not a first-time caller any longer. So you can call us again, okay?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help, and I feel much better. I feel very revived that I've called.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, Tiffany. We appreciate that so much. It's your show, Tiffany, and it's all of your show, Take Two Family, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Today we're talking about how we may have made a bad decision, made a mistake, done something we shouldn't have done early in our lives, or at least, we've learned subsequently that it was a mistake, and we kind of turned things around, and how others are benefiting from that. 833-288-3986, and we will go to Pittsburgh next. Susan is listening on iHeartRadio, another first-time caller. Hi, Susan. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello. I'm honored yet nervous.
Well, be honored, but try not to be nervous.
Thank you. What I want to share is when I had who is now my oldest daughter, it was the day and age of the how-to books, how to be the parent, how to be the disciplinarian. And I noticed that while I was a disciplinarian, my husband was the fun guy, and my daughter, of course, was closer to Dad because Dad was fun and Mom told her no. When I had my second daughter, I vowed to be this child's best friend, and we had a blast until she got into her teen years, because then I was her friend, but I was also the old person, and she didn't want to be around me. And it led to her running away, drug addiction, sexual promiscuity, and it was horrible. And, of course, I then bought books on how to get your kid back and how to, all these just different bits of wisdom. But you notice I never went to the Bible. And I broke down on my knees. I started reading my Bible, and we just started practicing tough love. Her sister, my husband, and I. And a long story short, then comes back my daughter, understanding the tough love and following the rules. And years have passed, and she respects me as a mother, and I treat her like a child, though we are all friends because we're adults. And I want people to know that you can be a friend to your child, but you have to be a parent, and you have to find that balance, because children need somebody to guide them, not just to be their friend. And we are now both Christian mothers. She's expecting her own daughter, and my advice to her every day is find the balance. When you get this baby girl, be her friend, but be her mother first and guide her.
Wow.
Well said. Well said. Jerry knows I talk about this all the time, that balance. I love the way you said that. That is so perfectly stated. Find that balance, because we as parents, we want to be liked by our kids. We want to be accepted by our kids. We want to be that fun parent at times and their so-called friend, if you will. But we are their parent, and you do have to strike that perfect balance. I so agree with you, Susan. It frightens me terribly when I see young families and I'll see one parent be the real disciplinarian and the other one being the jolly, fun, Disneyland, fun, parent. It bothers me because I'm like, oh my goodness, they need to be on the same page. This isn't, good for the child, because the child does need guidance and direction, because where are they going to learn it from? If they learn it from the world, look what happens. They get caught up in the world and then they get into trouble. I so agree with you. I'm glad you stated it. And I hope that other families, especially young families, are listening to this, because I think your life experience will help them, and it's definitely going to benefit them when they're raising their kids.
And Susan, I was so blessed by the part that you said you sort of rebuilt or renewed that relationship with your daughter. And I would think, for the benefit of those other parents who are listening who may have made the same mistakes that you did with their children, but give us real briefly, approximately, how long did that take? A long time? Was it fairly a short period of time? What exactly went into renewing that relationship with your daughter?
it took years, and it took, because we had to build trust in each other, and we had to build the respect. And she wasn't going to church, and I kind of got her back to church, and I got her from the back of the church to the front of the church. And we lead the rosary, but it takes years because you have to rebuild that relationship. And she's been 10 years drug-free, drug and alcohol-free. So we had to battle that together. But it didn't happen overnight because we were just, it took years of me being just her friend. So, of course, rebuilding that relationship, but we didn't give up. And we prayed, and I prayed so hard. Mm-hmm. And we prayed together. So it was by God's grace that we have become what we are.
Well, and one more thing I wanted to say. You see, Susan, this is a perfect example. Your life experience with your daughter and your family is a perfect example of how God works. Everybody thinks, oh, I messed up. This is really bad. God's not going to help us in this. And no, see, you turned your focus to God, you prayed, you got it back on track, and look at the miracles that are happening. Look at what's happening. And that's what I hope people take away from this too, Jerry and Susan, that it's never too late. It's never too late. If we have a breath in us, it's never too late.
Anything else, Susan, before we let you go?
No, but thank you for this opportunity. I actually took the day off work, and I think it was perfect timing.
Oh, yes, it was.
It was God. Oh, yeah, totally.
Well, bless you, Susan.
Thanks,
Thank
Susan.
you so much. And now you've got not only the mother-daughter relationship, but you probably have almost like a best friend relationship with her, too, which is appropriate now that she's an adult. So bless you, Susan. Thanks for calling in. Wow, that was really...
That was a great
call.
See,
these calls, Debbie, are perfectly... As always, the Take Two family, our listeners, you're taking the topic, which today is how you learn from your mistakes, and then others have benefited as a result of that, and just taking it and really hitting one home run after another.
Yep, absolutely. Still time to get on the show if you want to jump in on this wonderful discussion. 1-833-288-3986. Let's hear what John has to say in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, listening on the Station of the Cross. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Better now that you called, John. Thank you.
Well, basically, I was listening to your show, and I kind of wanted to call in because I think there might be a different twist on some of the mistakes and how you look at them later in life that may help somebody else. So, just to briefly, I grew up in a city that back in the 70s, when I'm a teenager and 20-something, and we lived a real fast life. Me and my friends, alcohol and drugs, premarital sex, lots of fighting, stealing. I mean, we didn't think twice about doing much of anything, and we all were growing up Christian. All grew up Catholics. Most of my friends, but we didn't live as Catholics for sure. And my point is, now I'm a parent in my early 60s with 4 kids. Most of them all grown up now, and my point is to people. I was so worried as a parent to be a hypocrite. I look back at my life and I said to myself, how dare you judge your kids? How dare you, try to, tell them what's right and wrong when you grew up an absolute sinner. You grew up someone who you lived that life and you didn't look back. And I just wanted to let parents know today that that they basically need to think and say, you can't look back at your own life and try to raise your kids the way maybe you wish you lived, the way your parents taught you, but you can't. And if you give in to them and you acquiesce to the way they are acting in their lives, solely because you don't want to feel bad about the way you live yours, you're making a huge, huge mistake. And I say that I'm sorry if it's a little tough for me right now.
It's okay, John. Just share from your heart.
My oldest son is 30 years old, and almost 11 years ago, he started experimenting with drugs, and it's been a 10-year, and we always, gave him what he needed, pats on the back. We looked the other way. We kind of thought to ourselves, well, look, we did the same thing, and look, we didn't end up so bad. He'll come out of it. Well, I just put him into his 11th detox in Boston last night. And I want to tell parents that you can lose your kids. Your decisions and the way you bring them up, because of the way you were either, lived your life as a youngster. Please don't make the mistakes of letting them get away with things. And I will say that my counsel, both to teens and 20-somethings and parents as teens, someday you will be in a position to influence other people, maybe your kids. Remember that the way you act now is going to influence how you parent. And so think twice about the way you live and the things you're doing wrong, because it will come back to you and bite you. I can guarantee that. And the other thing I would say as a counsel to parents is, please don't lie to your kids. Talk to them about your mistakes openly and honestly, but don't raise them up as something cool. Don't say, well, I understand what you're going through because I did that too. I mean, and finally, parents, teach your kids to pray. Let them see you pray, because at the end of the day, if you can't rely on the Lord and you can't rely on your faith, you will not get through the tough times later in life. And that's all I wanted to say is how life is a circle. What comes around goes around. And if you don't want it to come around to you, then act differently as you're younger. And as a parent, please be honest. Please watch what your kids are doing. Please do not let it get out of control simply because you might have made a bad choice like that younger in life too.
Well, John, thank you so much for calling the program. I almost hesitate to say anything because I don't want to tarnish what John just shared. The way you shared it, John, it hardly needs any commentary from me. I know Debbie has something to share, but I would just say to you this, John. The purpose of this show today was to have the mistakes that we've made benefit others. Well, I can tell you, brother, right now, there are thousands and thousands of people listening to this show, and you have just blessed them. You may have just saved lives. You may have just changed family dynamics for the better. So many of these things. And John, one thing that I hope for, and Debbie, I typed a note to Debbie here, even though we're in the same studio.
And I completely agree. Yes.
I'm hoping, John, you need to be free of this.
Yes.
That's the feeling I'm getting.
Me too.
And I hope that you are able to, maybe this phone call on this global radio show it's not sacramental confession, which you probably don't need in this situation. But hopefully it's a little bit freeing. You can be unchained from that. That's just the feeling I'm getting, Debbie.
I totally agree. I think, John, this is weighing so heavy on you, especially with your son. And I just wanted to let you know that you've got a whole Take Two family that will now be lifting up your family and your son. And I would just encourage you to please get your family members to start praying the novena to Our Lady, Lady Undoer of Knots. Do it several times. Keep doing it for your son. And I agree with Jerry. I think that you've helped so many souls today, and you just have to imagine that the good Lord smiles on that, John, because you're willing to take your pain and what you're going through, okay, to help others. And so there's going to be merit in that, whether you see it here with your family or you see it in eternity, John. I just feel it strongly. So we hope that I agree. I hope this call brought you some relief on some level.
Yes, it does. It does. Again, just talking about it sometimes. I will say two things quickly. My sister, who's a great person, a nurse, and she gave up her nursing career, and she now runs healthcare for the homeless in the western part of Mass, in Springfield, Mass. And she deals with drug and alcohol addicted and homeless people every day, all day, in the largest shelter in Massachusetts, in Springfield. And she has helped me greatly with information. So I'd say family members, reach out to your other family members, sisters, brothers for help. And my sister went to Ireland. She goes to Ireland a lot, and she brought me back some holy water from Knock.
Good.
And
Good.
I use that a lot to bless myself, my kids, my home, and I know that has strengthened our faith, and it will get us through. It'll be the only thing to get us through. And I want to thank you guys for what you do. You're wonderful, and I hope lots of people, turn you on and listen to you and gain strength from it.
Thank you, John. And just last thing I would mention, and you probably feel this in your heart already, but you said you admitted your son to his 11th detox. John, that's something to rejoice in, okay? A lot of people would say one failure after another. No, your son is a fighter. You're a fighter. Your son is trying this again, and he's going to beat this. He's going to beat this. So many other people, Debbie, don't get to detox even the first time.
That's very true.
And so many don't get there a second or a third time. So, John, the fact that he's in his 11th detox, that is nothing for especially for him to hang his head about. So we hope that you'll convey that to him, that he is a real fighting guy, and fighters are winners, Debbie.
That's right.
And his son is going to come out of this a victor, I believe.
And keep us posted,
Yeah.
John, please. We'll be praying. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but Paula's got a very important story.
Yeah, sure.
San Antonio, Texas,
Got
Guadalupe Radio, first-time caller. Paula, we're so sorry we're running out of time, but we wanted to bring you on the air. Welcome.
I don't know how short I can make this call.
Okay, but real quickly, Paula, real quickly, if you can't finish the call, email us, because we value your story. So it's take2@EWTN.com. But go ahead.
I just wanted to say I've had some really bad trauma during time, and I prayed over and over and over, why has this happened to me? What mistakes did I make? And some of the trauma has been extreme. I was kidnapped. So I wondered for years, I'm 68 now, and for years I was in my 20s. I wondered, why did this happen to me? I had been a Southern Baptist minister's daughter-in-law and had divorced. I was just I didn't know what to do. And I went through a lot of bad after effects from it. And I finally figured it out. Many years later, I got the opportunity to help a board of directors open the first battered women's shelter in a small community where I was living, and I was their first night employee. I also went to work as a law enforcement dispatcher. So it was things that I felt like God sent me the answer. God sent me. It wasn't a mistake. This is to be used for something good in the future. And I try to look at things now when things happen that seem very dramatic, that this is something God's going to use in the future. I don't like it. I don't like what happened to me. And I don't have to like that. I don't have to like that behavior. But way down the road, God made it good because it made me better. It gave me the way to help others. And so I pray and I wonder why God doesn't answer my prayer. Well, guess what? It got answered a long time after, and that was okay too. And that's pretty much my comment.
Wow. Well, first of all, Paula, thank you for being free enough in your spirit and in your heart to share that. And you managed to do that very, very timely and efficiently, because we are just down to inside a minute to go here. But Debbie, again, good coming out of things that were done to Paula, not mistakes so much that she made, but horrible things that she endured.
Yeah.
And yet God has moved in her heart to say, let us together make something beautiful and help others out of that.
Absolutely. So blessings to you, Paula, and it's ministry work you're doing when you're helping others. So thank you for having the courage to do it, and we hope you have many, many blessings with all the people you encounter that you help. Thanks, everybody. Harold, you've got a message for our other callers. We're going to be praying as well, and tomorrow we're talking about marriages tomorrow from the EWTN studios. See you then.
Dr. Ray Guarendi, making your parenting more fit, making your kids have less fits, and making your husband wear clothes that fit. The doctor is in. Next.
If you're currently an EWTN media missionary or just interested in becoming one, we've got some great news. EWTN Media Missionaries has a new and improved website. EWTNmissionaries.com, designed with you in mind. Our new site is loaded with great features and it's easy to navigate. There are so many different ways that you can help EWTN. Join us in sharing the eternal word with the world. Visit EWTNmissionaries.com today.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.